Welcome to Fueled by Coffee Podcast. This is Matt. I am your host. Today, we are here recording an episode in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. I'm here with my good friend Doug, who I met at my first job at Peapod. Many memories were held there.
Good ones.
I've many good ones, many not so good ones. I've done about 6,000 episodes talking about Peapod.
Every episode is actually sponsored.
Sponsored by Peapod.
By Peapod.
They deliver me the episode ideas on the Peapod truck,
yeah.
And then we record them in the Peapod
in the truck while they're delivering.
No, but Doug was one of the first people. He actually was the first person to reach out to me at that job and talk to me.
Yeah.
It was like a couple weeks in, and I was wearing a Blink-182 hat every day.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were like, hey, are you a punk rocker? Or you said something
I probably said something like that.
And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And you were like, oh, yeah, I saw your Blink-182 hat. And then we just started talking about, I don't know, music or stuff within that vicinity. Mm-hmm. And then just over time, we, started hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to go get pizza and...
Yeah. What is the name of that place?
Roma's.
Yes.
Please sponsor me.
Roma's in Hellertown?
Hellertown, Pennsylvania. Finest pizza in Hellertown out of the 8 pizza places we have.
8?
We have so many. Too many. It's like every time there's a vacant building, you think, oh, maybe something cool will go in there.
And it's another pizza place owned by the same family.
Owned by the same family.
To create an illusion of rivalry.
Oh, no. But yeah, so Doug and I have known each other for about 4 years now. It's crazy. I started that job in 2016, June of 2016. So it's been an interesting ride to get to this point. But now we are here recording an episode for Fueled by Coffee Podcast. So one of the things, we got a couple little icebreaker questions to start off. What kind of coffee are we enjoying today?
So this is coffee from my place of work at Becker Beans Coffee Company in Lansdale. This is a Rwanda single origin roast. It's a light roast since it's really gross out right now. Luckily, the AC works at our apartment, but we decided to go with iced coffee today, so I did a flash brew of over ice, and I'm drinking it black. Matt's drinking it with a little bit of Cinnamon Toast Crunch creamer. Sponsor him. Sponsor me, please.
I was just telling Doug the story about the first time I saw this creamer. I was at Weiss, and I was getting some groceries with one of my friends, and one of the associates just happened to be stocking the shelves at that time, and we were like, oh, I wonder if that's any good. And he was like, well, have you ever eaten it? Just out of nowhere, like we weren't even talking to him, and he just turns and looks at us and he's like, have you guys ever had a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and then drank the milk? That's what it tastes like in your coffee. And we were like, okay, yeah, thank you, thanks for the enlightenment. Like it's one of those things you really don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, it's cool when you get those little instances in real life, because like, I don't know, you could easily go through your day and not talk to anyone you don't have to talk to. Mm-hmm. Ignore strangers like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And, but then every now and then you just have these interactions with usually really weird people.
Yeah.
Or at least what they're saying is weird. Or they decide to tell you like a lot more about their own life than you ever asked.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny because then it gets you thinking that you have to think like this person probably has no one in their life. Mm-hmm. And any chance they have to talk to somebody, they will jump at it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad.
It's a really bleak outlook, but it's most of the time like it's what I find to be the case.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's nice though to think like you just talking to that person for a few minutes out of their day that like probably made their day.
Yeah.
Because so many people would be like, I don't care, and just ignore them.
Yeah.
You know, that's happened to me on numerous instances. Not to get too far off track, but there was one time last summer, I remember it was when I was like really just in my head and really down, And so I went out to the Palmer Park Mall in Easton, just to like walk around, and I went into FYE, and I just happened to walk through the movie aisle, and there was this old man, probably like in his mid to late 70s, and he just starts talking to me about movies.
That's awesome.
And like he was down on his knees digging through movies. And,
that's me.
And
I'll spend an hour to 2 hours in an FYE looking for something to buy, and then probably never buy something.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Their prices are just so high. Like,
I know. I was surprised that they're still around, actually.
Well, now it's more so like figures and
okay.
merchandise.
What are those?
And
Pop?
Yeah, pop figures.
Funko Pop or those little things?
Yeah, the little bobblehead guys.
Yeah.
You don't like them?
Not really. I just think I don't know. I'm a type 4 Enneagram, and I think that anything mainstream I just think is kind of lame. But
wow.
Do you ever dive into the Enneagram?
That's how. Well, I used to be like that when I was in high school, because I mean, for me, it was more like I'm into punk rock.
Yeah,
I have to go against the grain. Anything that's cool, I don't like.
Yeah,
that's what happened when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. I remember. This is the biggest instance of this I remember, is like all my friends got it, and then they like pretty much stopped hanging out with me because they were like, dude, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't need Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm gonna play Grand Theft Auto 4.
That's right. That's yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I have been like that before, and there are even times now where I still do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I
think I'm just elitist or a snob about certain things. And it's funny because I don't like people that are like that. Oh gosh.
You ever meet like an elitist musician? And they're like, you can't be in my band unless you can play a dotted triplet eighth note.
Oh gosh, I have been in bands with, I don't know if elitist is the word, but very much guys that are very controlling, and I think we've talked about it off air before. But the idea of when you join a band, you can join a band as a musician that's helping someone else's vision become real.
Right.
Where you probably don't have much creative influence at all. They wrote the parts, and you're just there to do them. I guess a studio musician, right? But then there's the other kind, where what I'm doing now with some friends of mine, where we just get together and we just jam, and it's a lot of fun, and it's therapeutic for us. And we probably won't go anywhere or get signed or whatever, but that's not the point of it. But yeah, I remember being in a band for this guy, and I remember the first time I thought we were going to practice, and he lived like 40 minutes away from me, and he had me come over only to talk to me about the vision of his band.
What?
And no one else was there to practice. We weren't practicing, and throughout the whole time, he's just kind of a little controlling, and I don't know, it was weird. It was not fun. Eventually I dragged my one friend into the band with me, and then eventually we both left. But you've met Brock.
Yes.
Yeah, he and
Brock.
I dragged him into that mess with me, just so I wouldn't have to bear it alone.
I've been in the same situation before.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's weird because you think, so many people can play instruments and stuff, but it wasn't always obvious to me that just because you get people together that play instruments does not mean that it's gonna work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
Going back to your current music project.
Yes.
What is the name of the project?
So we call ourselves Berry Mire.
Okay.
Which is based on a level in a PlayStation 3 game called Unravel.
Okay.
Which is a game that we would take turns playing when we would hang out after jamming. And before this, we were playing Connor's songs that he wrote, and we were called Willing to Bet, and we did that for a year or two. And then I took a break, and then when I came back, we decided to try jamming again, and this time it's just been instrumental, very like ambient, and just a lot of fun. I think we've been doing that since January of 2018, I think.
Sounds about right.
And I have actually past couple months, I started playing in another group. I play the keyboards. Well, I play 2 keyboards in a dream pop group with some friends from church. They finally decided a name called Mood Ring.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fun. We practice, and it's different. It's a kind of like going back to what we were talking about before. In Mood Ring, Eric's written these songs, and we learn the chords. I'm learning the chords and whatnot, and I'm just kind of playing along. I do have some influence, like we all kind of talk about the song after we play it, if there's anything we want to change, but it's mostly like he has this vision,
right?
But he's not control. It's not like that other situation. And but then with Connor, Sean, and Tim, it really is like we get together, and it's usually like a 2-chord progression, maybe 4 chords, and we just jam. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's what I've been doing musically lately.
And where can you find Berry Mire's tracks?
So we finally started putting our music on YouTube. If you search Berry Mire Music, you could find us that way. That's the name of the username or the channel name. Yeah. And we also have a Bandcamp, which is berrymire.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
But then something happened where I lost the login info for Bandcamp, so I couldn't log into it anymore and upload music, and that's why we started doing YouTube. There's some music videos up there too
that you shot yourself, right?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
They go very well with the music. It's just nice. Like it's like you're watching the Science Channel when they do how it's made.
Yeah, it's like
pretty cool. So now that we've gone through all that. The question I've been asking people this season, what are your top 3 music artists that you're currently listening to? It doesn't have to be in any order, just like your most listened to artists right now, or it could be podcasts or whatever you're listening to at the moment, your top 3.
The guys from Mood Ring actually introduced me to a band called Unwed Sailor, and I've been listening to them lately, specifically one album called Faithful Anchor.
Okay.
And it's like this instrumental kind of post-rock not really math rock, but pretty sounds.
Okay.
Very melodic. I've been listening to that, and I've been listening to Terra Melis is a math rock band that a friend of mine introduced me to a couple years ago, and I'm listening to an album called Drugs to the Dear Youth. That one's really good. Just a really good example of like the craziness of math rock, where it's just complete nonsense, and then it goes to this really structured, melodic, pretty sounds. I don't know, like has this balance between like crazy and then really awesome. I mean, it's really awesome the whole time.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've been listening to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do the soundtracks to a bunch of movies, specifically The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Gone Girl.
Okay.
Especially Gone Girl. I've been putting that on a lot at work. It's good kind of background music. Kind of eerie. Yeah. But, that's kind of neutral for me. So, yeah.
Cool. Well... And are all these available on YouTube?
That's how I find them. I use the YouTube Music app, but they're on YouTube as well. Yeah.
All right. Cool. I like to, being a musician and being so into music, I want to try and use this platform to maybe introduce listeners to new platforms of music or new styles of music, I guess. So very cool. But now I think it's time to dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode. So as many of you listeners know, if you've listened to the Men at Work episode, and maybe a couple of the other ones, I currently am the donut boy at a grocery store right now. Well, I do more than that. I bake overnight and I make the donuts and I do all that fun stuff. But Doug is also a donut making veteran.
Retired. Sadly retired.
He's seen the battlefields of Giant. He has traversed the lands of Yum Yums. but today we're going to talk about the donut shift and all that encompasses it, and any fun, interesting, or strange memories that we have of the donut shift. So I guess I will start with, let's just start with the hours. What were your hours at Giant when you were there?
Yes, when I was at Giant, I think I started doing, it was always 3 a.m.
Okay.
And I think it was until 9. But I eventually, and I switched to the baker shift and did 4 to 12 actually, I think.
Okay.
And then I got switched to doing both of the jobs and back to starting at 3 and having to end at 11. But I think I always went overtime every day.
Yeah.
But it was always pretty much a 3 a.m. start.
Was all of your stuff, like, I guess, pre-frozen? And, like, did you do anything from scratch at all?
No. They did the cream cakes from scratch, but my manager did those. But everything was, like, the donuts were from the freezer that you had to rack up. Rack up the day before and then bring them out of the fridge and then proof them and stuff. But nothing from scratch.
Okay. Yeah, because the previous, so we got a new cake decorator about 2 months or 3 months into my tenure, and the original one was telling me that they used to do them from scratch.
Yes, they did. Because I remember my bakery manager told me that he used to do that. I originally worked at the Giant in Coopersburg, and I did the 4 p.m. bakery shift. And I remember seeing the manager there, like when I was getting there, and they would be rolling out their dough and cutting.
That's crazy.
The rings and shells and stuff. Yeah.
It's interesting to think about, because now, like, when I tray everything up, it's just frozen in a box.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're gonna get. Some days you get donuts that puff up really nice and they look beautiful, and then there are days where they just, for whatever reason, don't want to proof.
Yeah.
And then they're like tiny little, like, who's gonna buy that?
Yeah.
And then you're disappointed in your work.
Yeah. Well, what temperature do you proof them at?
Okay, so for me, I wasn't actually trained by anyone in the department.
Yeah.
They had brought in a bakery tech from, like, a third-party organization to come in and train me, I guess because it was a lot to teach, and we were short on help to begin with. Like, when I came in, it was literally just me, the assistant manager, who is very high-strung, so it's easy to get her off topic, or get her off track, I should say. The bakery manager, who's very unsociable, and then the cake decorator, who didn't come in till like 8. And then, like, the kids who would come in at night and tray up stuff. So, like, there was really no help in the morning. So they had someone else come in and train me. She has me doing the donuts, which I've been doing them consistently like this since I started. I do them at 100 degrees Fahrenheit at 65% humidity.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I've done them at 75% before. Like,
I don't like the way they come out at 75.
During the winter, sometimes, like, when there's a lack of humidity, and I know they're not going to rise quick enough.
Yep, that makes sense.
Because everything's really time sensitive. Like, the case has to be filled by 6 a.m. or around 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like, I do the baking shift as well. So, like, the breads and the rolls and like the strudel bites, the sticky buns, all that stuff. Everything has to be done around 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's really time sensitive, and, there have been times where I had to pull the donuts out because I had to fry them, and people would say, oh, you could have left them in longer. And I'm like, I don't have time. Because then usually, I don't know if you did this, but, like, I usually let them sit for like 15 to 30 minutes outside the proofer.
Oh yeah, before even frying them.
Because if you stick them in the fryer too soon, if, like, there's still moisture in them, then the grease gets all crackling, and you can burn yourself real easily.
Yep. Yeah, I think I would. I think when I got there, when I did both, I would put the donuts in right away, and then I forget if it was like for 30 minutes or whatever it was, but I would let them sit out while I was baking.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I would wait a certain time. I think I got it down to, like, a certain amount of time of waiting.
Exactly.
And they would rise just enough, and then I would start doing them. But
exactly. Yeah. And then you have your cake donuts, which are the best.
Yeah, man, it's funny because we can talk about Yum Yums later if you want.
Yeah.
But the way that you do cake donuts at Yum Yums is, well, the process at both of them is pretty different. But yeah, man, for like frozen product that you just put in the oven, those cake donuts are so
delicious.
Yeah, they're so good.
I guess for me, I've said it before, my shift is from 2 a.m. to anywhere from 8 to 10. You know, there have been days where I've stayed longer if they needed extra help. But recently with, you know, the whole virus thing, there hasn't been as much work. I mean, now there's, because we have to package every donut individually.
Oh, yeah, that sounds...
You just got to you got to see it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of plastic.
Yeah, a waste of plastic for sure.
It's just frustrating because like they have us overproducing, and then it gets thrown. I'd say over 75% of it gets thrown away the next day. And
I wonder how they don't see. Like, I'm sure they see like numbers. I'm guessing at some level of management or higher of like, okay, we started packaging single donuts, and since then sales have gone down, but also waste has gone up. Like, I wonder if they see that, and you know, whether or not they care or not, but you know, they'd have to be able to, they'd have to see that that's having a bad.
Well, people, I guess, people within the department have gone. Like, I was taking pictures because my manager was on vacation when they up the count of the donuts, and so I took pictures every day the week he was gone, just show him when he got back, like, this is what we're wasting. And it's, you know, it's a waste of food, it's a waste of plastic, it's a waste of my time that I could be doing something else to help the department. And
what did he say to that?
Well, I said to him, I said, I have pictures if you want to see. He said, no, I believe it. He said, I believe we're wasting. And then apparently, like, the higher ups in the store were like, we don't care about shrink right now, we just want to push sales. And I'm like, okay, but no one's buying them.
So what do you mean push sales? Like, you can't make people buy.
And apparently the six packs were selling just fine when we were doing them.
Oh, okay.
But either way, so that's just the way it is right now. I always get great satisfaction out of doing, like, I haven't been able to do them in probably almost 4 months, but like when we'd have the colored icings, I'd usually coordinate them with like the season, whether it was like I do fall colors or summer colors, or like from like the start of football season through Christmas, I had green for like the Eagles, and then Christmas time, and just imagining up all these different. I'd have like 3 trays of donuts a day where I'd be like, all right, this is my creative freedom.
Fun donuts.
This is my moment. And for whatever reason, all my marble donuts, the ones where you drizzle.
Do you drizzle them? Because I would take them, one in each side, and then twist.
Oh.
Yeah, my assistant manager showed me that one time.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, I don't know taste wise how different that is, but
it's probably the same.
It's
all going in your mouth.
It's just sugar. But I've done that sometimes. I remember when icing the donut, I like got into this habit of ice, and then at Yum Yums they would ice it and then scrape along the sides to smooth it out.
Okay.
But I would dip it in, and then with my finger I would twist my finger so it would kind of have like this, a little bit of like a swirl on it.
Okay.
And I don't know, I just remember getting really good at it. And it was just a sad day when I had to stop.
Yeah, see, with my marble donuts, I will ice all of them with the base flavor. And then I take the spoon and I kind of like stir. I just kind of stir it, and I'll grab one, and then I'll drizzle it, grab another one. I've never done the twist
You don't
method.
just do it on the tray?
No,
when you used to?
Because then the tray gets all messy, and I was told
definitely.
I was told that the tech was like, you don't want any icing droplets on your tray because they will come around and they will crucify you for that. They don't want to see any dirty trays in the case. And I was like, so I value my presentation a lot, you know, because you know, I guess from a customer's perspective,
that makes sense.
I mean, how many times have we sent each other pictures of Doug and I are donut snobs? We will go in, and we will like look at the donuts in different giants and send each other pictures and be like, look at this, look, this is terrible,
gosh. Dude. Every time, I haven't done it lately, but I guess maybe probably because of the virus thing. But I remember going to different, especially when I was in the bakery department, I would go to different stores, and I would go to the bakery department and just kind of see how close I could get to the actual department and just peek in there and see what their setup was like, you know. And I remember one time I was at like a Weiss or something like that, and I was making something at home. I needed glaze. So I asked them if I could buy just like an icing bag of the donut glaze, and they said they said no. And I was like, all you do is you take a spoon into the bucket of donut glaze and put it in an icing bag, and then just
just put a sticker on it. Yeah.
But they didn't have it, and I just remember being like, okay, either they don't know how to do it, how to like print out a barcode, or they don't want it, because I can clearly see the bucket of glaze right there, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
Yeah. It's funny. So real quick sidebar. My girlfriend and I went to do some grocery shopping a couple months ago, and we went into not my Quakertown Giant, but the other one that's next to Walmart. With the gas station. Yeah,
that's where I worked. Yep.
And we went in there, and I went over to the donuts, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm looking at their donuts." And I was like, "That one's upside down. That one's not right." And she was like, "Stop." She had to come over to me and literally shush me away and say, "Stop, you're critiquing someone else's art."
Yeah.
I was like, art.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, yeah, right, art.
Yeah.
And
she's just,
some context.
Yeah, she's an artist. She draws and paints. Okay. So like, I guess to her, that's like an art form.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, baking is an art form, but.
It is.
I don't know. But yeah, she was like, "Stop, you're critiquing their work." And I was like, "Well, that's my job."
I know, it is though, you know. They don't tell you when they hire you for the department, but whether it's the bakery not, or the produce or the meat department, you actually have to go to other stores and you have to write reviews on the other stores' departments, and you hand it in to your manager your next shift, and they give you a certain amount of stars. When you get enough stars, you get a day off.
Yeah.
But you don't get paid for it.
That was all a lie.
It was.
But it was beautiful. I love how seamlessly you just kind of wove that in there.
You have to try sometimes, you know, but
yeah, the donut shift, you know, it's definitely been probably the most interesting job I've had so far in my young working career thing. But I will definitely say that working that, I guess, early in the morning or late at night, however you want to view it, definitely does come with its pros and cons. Like,
yes.
Like, one of the nice things is that you get out so early that, like, everything's open.
Yeah.
Like, like, if you work, like, a normal day shift job and say you don't get home till 4 or 5, and say you have to do things like, I don't know, run to the bank or do things, and it's, like, certain places close really early. Whereas with this, you get out at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and it's like everything's open, and most people are at work, so nothing's really busy,
and you have the whole day.
But then you're so tired. Because like for me, my sleep schedule is really weird. Like I will go to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, probably don't fall asleep till 9, and then get up at 1, and I have like a 30 to 35 minute commute, and then by the time I get home, it's usually like almost 9 a.m., eat something, and then I usually try and take a nap after work. And I'll sleep till like 2 or 3 p.m. And if I've worked the next night, then it's like I'm up till 7 or 8 o'clock, go back to bed, so it's just, it's kind of taxing on your body sometimes.
Definitely.
And also for me, like I've noticed too, sometimes it messes with my mental health a little bit. Because like when you're up that late at night, and normally like you're alone, like for the first couple hours of your shift, and like, when things are going great, you're just like, this is great. And then when things aren't going so great, you just kind of like, you're alone with your thoughts.
You're just stuck there, man. I mean, I don't know about you. I would have one earbud in, and I would listen to stuff. I think back then I would listen to sermons and or music or whatnot. But
I've thought about doing that. But that, to tie into that, the reason why I brought that up is because I kind of nailed down like 3 moods that I normally get into when I'm in my donut shift. So there's the one that I kind of touched on, is like, you'll be like really down and just like really, really in your head and just like overthinking everything. Like you'll take something that you heard like last week and overanalyze and like, kind of get yourself really worked up, or just like really, like bummed out, And that's not all the time. That's a pretty rare one. It just depends on, what's going on, I guess. but it's just easy to overthink things. Like I said, you're alone with your thoughts, and you're just kind of, your mind runs wild.
It can, definitely. It's, I do have at least one. I remember one time I was like in a fight with a friend of mine, and I think back then I struggled with depression a lot more than I do now.
Yeah.
And I think that I remember the one morning, it actually ended up happening a little closer to like 6 or 7, but you know, I had this whole early morning to just overthink whatever was happening. He was mad at me for something, and but back then I would definitely have more suicidal thoughts. I don't anymore.
Yeah, thank God.
But I remember I just started bawling my eyes out
Yeah.
one day while I was icing the Boston cream donuts.
Oh man.
And but I just kept working. I made sure to get the tears into the icing.
So then you put extra love into your work.
Yeah, I guess, you know, you could say that. And but my assistant manager noticed, and then I went outside with my manager and talked to him. But yeah, I definitely remember that, because it's weird because you're up early, and I don't know about you, but I am the kind of, and I don't know if it's because of the donut shift or not, but when I wake up, I'm up and I just go. And I get tired earlier. My wife is the opposite. She has a harder time waking up.
Right.
And then she doesn't want to go to sleep at 8 o'clock like I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're up and your mind is running, but then yeah, you're alone. There's the night shift crew, but they're over on the floor stocking shelves or whatever they're doing. But
and in my situation, the night shift people are just really obnoxious, and
yeah, they were like that at
I just don't like to. They get on my nerves. That makes it worse. If I'm in my head, I'm like, if someone yells again, I'm gonna punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, man, it's like a double-edged sword, because it is nice to I'm an introvert, so I like being alone,
right?
And I've always liked working alone, so there is that. But definitely, like, if you're not in a good emotional place in your head, it's way too easy to ruminate, and get into that bad place, especially at the donut shift. It's like a curse, because you're doing such an honorable and important job. It comes with like a sort of burden. You know?
I love that you said it was honorable, because I remember. So I started this job at the beginning of February last year, 2019.
Yeah.
And Aaron, one of our mutual friends, he went to Giant, not the one I work at, but on Foshnot Day.
Yeah.
And I remember he texted me, and this was like 2 weeks into my tenure there, and like I was still trying to figure things out. At this point, I was just doing donuts, but they threw me right to the wolves on donut day.
Yeah.
Well, and I fried over 1,000 donuts. And he texted me and he was like, "Happy Foshnot Day. Thank you for," I don't remember how he put it. He was just like, "Thank you for carrying out such an honorable deed," or something like that. "Thank you for your service," or something like that.
I mean, some people need donuts in the morning, like they need coffee, but it feels good to be a part of that. I don't know, like,
and like, you know, I never knew how that sort of stuff worked before, because I remember, because like you just show up at the store and they're just there in the morning.
Exactly.
And I remember, like, before I started, I was like, oh well, there's no way we're gonna throw all of them away. Like, we'll probably like just restock them each day as we need. And then when I went in and they're like, okay, so each morning you dump whatever's left in the trash. And I was like,
trash, dude.
Huh? That was back when we sold a lot of donuts though, so there wasn't as much waste. Yeah. But the great thing with those is, did you ever snag a donut before you threw it away?
No, because of how old it was. I did. So when you're checking dates, we've talked about date checking, and there is a certain kind of cake at the bakery department called chocolate bomb cake. It has like ganache and chocolate ganache and stuff in it. It's just like this round.
Is it a bundt cake?
No, it's not a bundt cake. It's in the fridge, like the refrigerated part of the cake. Okay. But it's like this little brown ball, half of a ball. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Whenever those would go out, I mean, and whenever anything was going out, because you know how if the date was the current day, you had to throw it out. So for certain things, my manager or I or someone would bring a product back for us all to munch on, and
Mm-hmm.
I always like would count down the days that the bomb cake would go out.
That's
and
amazing.
dude, that was so good. I mean, donut wise, I mean, I can't say that I was really like crazy about as a customer, crazy about any of them, especially like in the morning. I probably wouldn't. I don't remember ever doing that.
For me, so like when I wake up in the morning, normally it takes me like an hour or two for my appetite to kick in.
Okay, yeah.
And so normally with the donut shift, 3 a.m. is when I would, in my normal routine, pre-virus, at 3 a.m. is when I would go and I would empty out the case of all the day-old donuts. And usually at that point in time, I was like, I'm pretty hungry.
Yeah.
Because normally this would be breakfast time, an hour into me being awake, or 2 hours into me being awake.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times if we had a cake donut and I was like really, really hungry.
Okay, yeah.
I would go to like dump the tray, but I'd take one for myself.
Oh, yeah.
And it started with like just taking 1 or 2 bites. But then one day I was like, I'm so hungry. So I ate the whole donut. Or then like the seasonal ones. We have these Christmas tree shaped ones at Christmas time.
I remember those. I never had them.
So good. They're so soft and they're so fresh.
But they're like a cake. No, they're.
It was a yeast donut, but it was like.
But it was in the oven, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like pre-made. So you just had to like thaw it.
Yeah.
But those were the best. But
I never had those ones.
But anyways, so I have snagged many of donuts that I did not, because my thing is just like, well, it's getting thrown out anyways. So like,
no, that's true. The cake donuts, I think if anything, it would have been the cake donuts.
Oh, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will say though about the fun donuts, those were.
What kind of fun donuts did you guys do?
Well, I did. So I would have like the 6 trays of 6 shells on each, or 4 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever
your leftover was. I would usually do a flower, because the cake decorator taught me how to make like little like roses or some sort of flower. So one tray would have like flowers on the donuts. I would do the color thing eventually, and that was a lot of fun. One time I did one that was really, it ended up being like this dark blue swirl that looked like Van Gogh's Starry Night. I think I did that, and I used a yellow icing bag and like did little stars on it. But I'm pretty sure they were all there the next morning. Yeah, no one bought them. And then I remember I would also I'd draw little faces. I've
seen those,
and those would usually not sell. I didn't realize that was creepy. Like who would want to buy a donut that had a face on it, like you're eating it? But I remember doing that with the pumpkin shaped ones too. Yeah,
those are the ones you sent me a picture.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, those are good times. Good times.
For us, for the fun donuts, there's an Oreo one.
Oh, that sounds good.
I normally, what I'll do is I'll have like 3 chocolate iced, dip them in the Oreo, 3 vanilla iced, dip them in the Oreo, and then usually I would do like a chocolate drizzle on them.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah, and it's weird, they don't sell if I don't do the drizzle.
That is so weird.
Like as soon as I do the drizzle, people are like, "Oh, that's upscale," and then
we have a low standard for art, I think, or fancy. At least I know I do. Yeah. That sounds so good. I do remember we would have like a seasonal filling, because I remember we used to have like a brownie hopper that had like brownie batter sort of thing in it, and I remember having I think there was a cookies and cream one at some point. Oh man, I don't know. And I think we might have even had a banana one at some point, but I might be getting it confused with at Yum Yums though, because they had, dude. So at Giant we have the Boston, the apple raspberry, the vanilla cream, and the chocolate cream. Right? Do we have a chocolate cream?
Well, at mine we do the raspberry filling. I guess it's apple raspberry filling. The Boston cream. Yeah. And then the just whatever the buttercream icing is.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like 3 hoppers, right? At Yum Yum Donuts, dude, they had like 6 or 7 or 8 hoppers of different kinds.
I know they have the apple one.
Oh yeah, they have
they have the jelly.
Yep, they have apple.
They have the chocolate cream.
And they have jelly, chocolate cream, the regular white cream. White cream. They had like blueberry. They had cherry. Ooh. They had like a black raspberry, which was my favorite. They had a strawberry that wasn't that. Wow. that was like a little more like a filling instead of just like the. How would you describe the? I don't know how to describe the consistency of it. Where it's like not that there's chunks of strawberry, but like,
it's more of like a preserve, kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like a straight jelly.
Yeah. But yeah, they had so many, man.
That's
crazy,
awesome,
dude.
Yeah, my favorite at Yum Yums is the chocolate thunder.
Yeah,
it's the chocolate
so good,
iced with chocolate sprinkles and chocolate buttercream.
Exactly.
And I am not an advocate for filled donuts. I absolutely despise them. But
really?
At your wedding, so Doug's wedding was really cool. Instead of having like a traditional, like everyone gets a piece of wedding cake, they had a donut wall. And that is one of the, I think, most admirable things I've ever seen in my entire life, because I love donuts so much. And as soon as you told me you guys were doing that, I was like, that is amazing. And that's the one I grabbed. And oh man, that was one of the things before everything closed down. Kayla and I, Kayla being my girlfriend, we would go to Yum Yums probably like 2 or 3 times a month, and we'd have like a Yum Yums like breakfast date.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She'd be like, "Do you want to go to Yum Yums this morning?" I'd be like, "Absolutely, I do. Let's go get breakfast sandwiches and coffee and donuts, and then walk out 10 pounds heavier."
I know, right? Yeah,
but it's so delicious.
It is, and that's cool about Yum Yums because so the donuts are made differently, whereas like they're not frozen, already pre-cut. But there's like these 50-pound bags of donut mix that you throw in this big old mixing bowl, and you have to add this instant yeast, and you have to add a certain amount of water, and there's like charts so you know how much to add and whatnot. And it was cool because the temperature outside would kind of dictate the temperature of the water.
Yep.
I think it was warmer or hot water if you needed them done in less amount of time or something like that, and then cold water would take a little longer. But that was cool. And then you would have to, since they weren't pre-cut, we had this conveyor belt, and you would have to, so you'd mix all your dough, and then you would form it into a loaf, and then you cover it and let it sit. And then once it was ready to be worked, you'd flatten it out, you put it through the conveyor belt, and you had this attachment that with like a ring attachment or a shell attachment, and you ran it through, and like you'd have to proof them just like at Giant, but at the Yum Yums I worked at, the proof box did not work.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It didn't work very well. So you had to, like, there's at one point where they would fill like cookie sheets with like hot water and like slide that, like have that in there in the proof box to help it go. But I remember they would always have it being worked on it for some reason. Never got fixed.
That's funny that you mentioned the cookie sheets. I've been recommended, so the cake decorator at the store I work at, she is like hardcore like pastry chef, like worked for tons of different places doing it. She's really talented, really good baker. And like she does it as a hobby, like at home, like she's always baking something. And she told me that as a tip to proof things at home, if you put it on a higher rack in the oven and then do the water on a cookie sheet, and you can proof in your oven. And I never knew that.
Did she say what temperature to put the oven at though? Probably not a lot, right?
She said whatever
100 degrees?
Yeah, she said whatever the lowest temperature is, but you have to be careful because it'll proof really quick, because obviously I think some ovens they only go down to like 200 or something. I've seen some ovens that only go down to that, but also she said even if you just put it in the oven and turn the light on in the oven, sometimes that's enough heat to
that's awesome.
But no, that's interesting. So like I guess we could say the difference between Giant and Yum Yums is like Giant is a retail bakery, whereas Yum Yums is like a wholesale bakery.
I'd say so. I guess you could call it that.
It's like more involved, and
it is. Oh yeah, well more, if that's what you
more
mean.
Love going into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, it's funny because not everyone that. It's funny because I loved working in the bakery, both at Giant and Yum Yums. It's funny. My good friend that introduced me to Caramellos, he was the donut fryer before I started doing it, and he hated it.
Really?
Yeah, dude. And when I got to Yum Yums, there's someone that I would get in at 3:00, and someone would do a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift because back then they were 24 24 hours a day. And someone would be baking overnight, and there's a guy there, and he hated it, man. Like
Wow.
I don't know. It's I could never really like wrap my head around like the idea of hating making donuts.
I love it. That's my favorite part of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or when the strudel bites come out, those are good, dude.
I've never eaten one.
Those are really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever get,
They smell good.
Yeah. Those are good. The what else?
There's a turnovers.
Sticky buns.
Sticky buns.
Oh,
Sticky
yeah.
buns are good
Turnovers. Yep. What else?
too. You always get to flip the sticky buns when they come out.
Yeah.
They're in these like deep pans, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like you proof them. They started as these like little tiny things, and then when they come out of the proofer, they're like pretty much stretched to the edges of the pan.
Yeah. Yep.
Throw them in. I do mine for like half an hour in the
yeah.
oven at 365.
Okay. Yeah.
And when they come out, you got to kind of like, at least I do. I use like a bench scraper to free the edges,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah,
just grab them and flip them real quick.
Yeah.
It's terrifying the first time you do it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, because you're not
You're
sure.
like, it's gonna fall
It's
over.
actually it's worse to do it slow. You just
Yep.
and you do it. Yeah.
But
Yeah, those are good.
honestly, most everything I make is good. I
Yeah.
would say there were a couple times we did seasonal fillings, and they were nasty. There was one we had this extra pumpkin buttercream,
I think I remember having a pumpkin buttercream.
but it was like we didn't have it in a hopper. It was like they had it in a
icing bag that you had to
in a bag, and you had to like pipe it in yourself.
Yeah.
We did that
That's
for a
weird.
couple weeks, and I tried one when it came out of the case, and I was like, this is nasty. I just spit it out.
Yeah. It probably, I don't know, like the flavor of like a yeast donut, like it just doesn't seem like it would go well together. And even like with any icing, really, right?
And
like
it had white icing on it. The
Yeah,
consistency was really gross.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about, we had this like mint chocolate chip buttercream, but we never ended up doing anything with it.
Huh.
I think the decorator made some cakes. But anyways, back on topic.
Well, one more thing though.
Go for it.
The cake decorator, they use like the strawberry glaze.
Yes.
Do you ever? I wasn't supposed to do this, but I did it anyway.
Please tell this story.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I have put like the apple raspberry, a little bit of the apple raspberry filling in at the end of the day for the fun donuts, and put it into the chocolate icing and mixed it around.
Oh no.
To get like a chocolate raspberry sort of thing, and I've done that. Got in trouble for that. I've done the same thing. I've taken the strawberry glaze and the cream cheese.
Yes.
For the coffee rolls, I remember I would, in a little mixing bowl, throw some of the cream cheese icing in there, and then put some of the strawberry glaze in there and mix that together to get like a strawberry cream cheese.
That's probably
thing.
really good though.
Got in trouble for that one too. But yeah, dude, it's anyway.
That's one of the frustrating things before we segue back.
Yeah.
That's one of the I've suggested quite a few different donut ideas.
Yeah.
And it's not even like you're replacing any, I guess, like, because for, I guess nowadays it's all based on like calories and nutritional info, and it's like a government thing.
What is that?
What?
I said, what is that?
What is a calorie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're eating fat donuts anyways.
Yeah.
No, but like I suggested just swapping out like one ingredient, and it would be the same calorie count, just a different flavor. Like,
Okay.
so like we have a donut that I dip in Fruity Pebbles, which is disgusting. Or,
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Or there's one that I put gummy bears on.
That does not sound good, dude.
Yeah, to sugar your kids
That's
up.
too much. Yeah, dude. That doesn't. Oh, I don't. No thanks, man.
But the one time I suggested, I was like, look, the gummy bear donuts don't sell. Why don't we just do... I said, what if we do like a s'mores donut? Because I saw that we had like a graham cracker pie crust, and like the Oreo donuts I do is just literally I crumble up an Oreo pie crust.
That sounds good.
And that's what I dip them in. And I said, well, what if we do like a graham cracker pie crust? I could do like a vanilla icing, dip it in the pie crust, and drizzle chocolate on it. It'd be a s'mores donut. And it's literally, you're
cool.
just using a different flavor pie crust. The calories are the same.
Yeah.
And my manager just shot it down right away. He's like, no, can't do that.
I think the one thing, at least for a giant level, because if we do stuff like that, someone goes and gets it and they love it. And then they go to another giant, ask about it.
That's true.
And it's like, so I can see that being an issue. My question about the Oreo, would you use the white icing? So you would do plain shell, dip in the white icing, and then dip that into the Oreo crumbs?
Yes.
Oh, did you ever consider doing the white instead of the hard white icing to use the the buttercream filling as the top and dunk that into the...
That would probably be good. Well, we actually do have like an Oreo buttercream.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know if they would let me though, again, because of the whole, they'd be like, well, that's not in coincidence with the government calorie counts. And but yeah, but either way, so getting back to the whole moods of the donut shift, so we covered like getting really down, getting in your head. Super easy to do. Then there is the super motivated, where I get like, all right, I want to do this, and this. When I was like, all right, I want to watch this show. I want to read a chapter in my book. I want to write. I want to work on music. I want to watch this movie. And then it'll be like, I'll make this long list of things to do when I get out of work, and then I never get to all of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that just comes from as a result of like, when you're at work, there's a million other things you'd rather be doing than be at work.
Yeah, no, I got that.
And then when you get out of work, you're like, maybe.
When you get out of work, you're tired. You just want to sleep. But
that's actually how the podcast came to be.
Yeah.
It was a 3 a.m. idea. I started telling the story of, it was the first episode of the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
If you haven't heard it yet, you can go check the playlist for season 1. The very first episode I was thinking about when I got stuck in the snow on the way home from my warehouse job.
Episode, or?
And I was telling it in my head as if like someone was sitting there with me. And I thought, man, like, I wonder how I could tell this story to other people. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, there's podcasting and I do audio. Like, why have I never thought of that?
Dude, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Then, so I was thinking of all the stories I could tell and like all the people I could have on, because I'm friends with people of all different walks of life. Yeah. All different, areas of the world, viewpoints, beliefs, interests, So it's like, it's really cool that you can have people on and have people listen to what someone else's life is like, and be like, wow, like that's really cool. And you may introduce a listener to something they never thought they'd be interested in before.
No, it's definitely like, I love listening to your podcast, and it's always cool. Like I was telling you off air, but the Men at Work one, dude, I remember when I started that up, I was like, well, I'll listen to it because that's my friend, I love him, I'm gonna listen to it, but I don't know how interesting this is going to be. But it was so awesome to hear the guys be so passionate about their work. Was it John that does the car wash? Dude, how much he loves car wash, or washing cars, or just cars in general, but I think specifically washing cars was just so fun to listen to, because you could hear how much he cared about it and how much joy he got out of that line of work. Just like for us, it's making donuts. And it's cool to hear that, because as a listener, I'm like, well, that's crazy. I don't think that I could ever be that into making cars clean or look good, but here we go, that's somebody's life, and that's cool.
Exactly,
very cool.
So that's how the podcast got started. I was super motivated one night. I got out of work, texted Aaron. And I was like, hey man, one of the days coming up, would you like to record a podcast with me? I want to start a podcast. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And then from there, it's just off to the races. So there's the motivated headspace, and then there's the headspace of, I am so tired, I just want to get out of here, and I just want to go home, sleep, and not be at work. I think that one, I don't know. I was going to say that was every day by the end of the day, but that's not true, because I've definitely had times when I get home and I'm awake and I would get stuff done. But, I mean, back then I would just get high all the time, so I never actually got anything done. But I definitely relate to that. I think because there was a time where I worked in the morning, got out at 11, and at the time I was playing for a couple who did like acoustic music, and all I did was play a bass drum like that was standing up on like one song, and we were going to Philly to record, and he was driving, so I had to drive out to his house and then go to Philly with them, record, and then play a show. Oh man. And I didn't get home till like 1 o'clock, and I worked at 3 a.m. Oh man. I've had times where we would play a show at the Funhouse in Bethlehem. And I would also have to work in a couple hours, sort of thing. I'm pretty sure that happened. I mean, hats off to you. I'm I can get pretty grumpy sometimes if I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I have to
dude,
get up at 1, guys. Like,
yeah, it's hard. I was living in an apartment with a friend of mine, and I would try to go to sleep at like 7 or whatnot, and it was basically a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So, he had his bed in like the living room basically, and then I had just the one room. But I would try to go to sleep, and then there would be people over being loud, and I'm trying to go to sleep, man.
Yeah.
And it's tough, dude. There's definitely been the times where you wake up and you don't want to go to work.
Yep.
But then like that you can get home, like we were saying, like you get home the rest of the day. You can go home and you can sleep. But there was a time when I did Yum Yums and Giant, I think.
Were you still at Yum Yums when you were working at Peapod?
That's what I was gonna say.
I remember there were a couple times you brought in like brownies or donuts.
Yeah,
or something.
okay. I think it was when I started, because at some point I did Yum Yums and then I would do Cold Stone in the afternoon before Cold Stone closed. I left Cold Stone and stayed at Yum Yums, and then I think I did start doing Peapod, but I did both, and that eventually led to a decrease in quality of work at Yum Yums.
Yes.
And I got fired.
Yeah,
for sure. So
at least you have the experience to talk about, though. Like if we were not donut boys, we would not be having this. I don't know if we'd be having as good an episode right now.
Yeah, man. It's so awesome that
it's such a weird thing to connect on such a deep level.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. It's cool though, man. Like I think maybe a part of it is being a musician. We work with our hands.
Yeah.
And there's something about you guys were talking about it, but you take something like a dirty car and then you turn it into this super clean and amazing looking vehicle, and it's the same thing. And like you were saying, it's like, I don't know, man, there's something about it, and especially the idea that like people love donuts, dude.
Yeah.
So if you can be a part of that process somehow, there should be, I don't know, there's a really something to be proud of. And it's cool. It's I think the one instance in terms of where like you do what you love and you don't work a day of your life, which I don't really think is true. We work, and you're not always going to love it, but that was the closest I think to where like, oh man, I miss it. I've tried to go back to Yum Yum since, and it never happened.
Yeah,
but I would do it again. I don't think I'd go to school for culinary. I think the level of baking that Giant and Yum Yums is about where I want to be. I wouldn't really want to go into like the really high end.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, there's something cool about there's like enough freedom but enough structure.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. It's
not like one of my friends went to Culinary Institute of America.
Yeah,
and she's very good at what she does, but she can be a snob when I baked with her once.
Yeah,
and I was nervous just to bake the way I normally bake at home, because I was like, I know she's going to criticize me.
Yeah.
Like the moment I started going to measure flour, she's like, what are you doing? I was like,
I know. Yeah. I had a friend like that, that is, went to school for culinary, and she's a very good, I think she does like desserts at a restaurant in Bethlehem. But we started hanging out and we baked together, and at that point my level of baking was I would just take pancake mix and mix it with cake mix, and that's what I did. Or I did like pudding mix with cake mix, and so we were baking cookies and stuff from scratch. And I remember the one time I was supposed to like cream the sugar or something like that, and I didn't know what that meant. Or like I added all the ingredients in, and
then it was all clumpy, right?
Yeah, and she didn't reprimand me, but I definitely felt like a little child next to a mother goose. I mean, I'm not a cook either.
Yeah.
But once you step out of baking out of a box you buy on the shelf, there's just so much, man. Like,
it's a science.
Yeah, and it's cool because like with cooking is a little more like an art.
Yes.
You have a little more freedom, but yeah, with baking it's like it's the science, your precise measurements, timing, like so much of it. I don't know. And it's cool though, because when it works, you're like, man,
Yeah.
I am a person, aren't I? But then when it doesn't, you can definitely be like, man, I'm never doing this again.
Yes.
Or it's cool because you can be like, okay, so this was, you take notes.
Yep. I think it is time to start reeling it back in.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, last question, because for those of you who do not know Doug, he's like a guy that, you know, I feel like I've always been able to go to if I've ever needed any sort of like advice, or just to be like, hey man, can we talk? Like, you know, no matter what's going on, I feel like he's pretty level-headed and just a good friend to talk to. So Doug, like, if you had like, I guess, a big piece of advice or something maybe you've learned in your life that you could pass on to like a younger generation, such as like, you know, teenagers and young adults, if there was like one big thing, what would you pass on? It could be a concept, just so, like whatever.
Okay, so I think one of the big things is it's okay to not know what you want to do. It's okay to just work.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a really big thing that I learned throughout these years is you're just going to experience a lot of pain and suffering, whether it's physical or, for at least in my life, it's just been emotional. And I think that it's good to go through things. I think that being said, I think it's very important that you find people that actually care about your well-being, other than your family. Like, find friends that you are able to say, hey, I feel massively depressed, or I'm struggling with this, and find people that will listen to you and hear what you have to say, that will comfort you, that will challenge you, and that will walk with you through the painful things that you're going to go through. There's nothing wrong with having the friends that you just get drunk and high with or whatever, but there's something, I don't know, you're going to need a rock in your life. For me, that's Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus, Son of God. And I know that that's not a rock for everybody. I will say that in my life, I've tried just living my life and doing whatever I wanted, and I think the only thing that's been able to help me feel whole, with a W, is just Jesus. I mean, and religion can be tough because you can go to churches and you're gonna meet people that are probably the typical, like, stick their nose up at you, looking down on you sort of people. But what I'm talking about is just like a relationship with God through Jesus. And I don't understand all of it. And there's many days where I wake up and wish I could go back to doing whatever I wanted to do, and forget that made me miserable. But I don't know, man, you got to find something to have faith in. And if you're able to have faith in yourself and still not feel completely empty, that's awesome. I can't do that. Faith in myself, just when you fail so many times, or when you're hard on yourself like we are, like having faith in ourselves, or having faith in someone else. You think that you're going to someone else can carry the weight of fulfillment and purpose of another person on their own back when they have that need as well. Like, I don't know about that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think the one thing is, Jesus loves you, and you need to repent. Man, he loves you more than your husband or wife, or your lover, or your family ever will. He will understand you the way that you long to be understood. Right. I think we have times where we realize how alone we are. How misunderstood we really are. And there's this weird comfort that Jesus gives us that people don't. People will always fail you. And you will always fail others. You know, it's easy for me to get down and think about the people that have left me, where I put a lot of care into someone, and thought someone cared about me, and then they just leave. But you have to remember that sometimes you are the person that does that.
Yep.
You are the person that leaves. And it's such a Sunday school answer, but God will not leave you, and he will not fail you.
Right.
That may not look like you getting whatever you want. It will look like you going through an amount of pain. Being a Christian does not mean that you are not going to get hurt.
Yeah. And I think that's a big misconception about Christianity that a lot of people have, is they just expect you to be like a perfect person.
Yeah.
When I think like one of the biggest things that people, I guess, I don't know, I've seen it like posted places, or I've heard people say it is like church is not a place for saints, it's a hospital for the broken.
Yeah, and that's what it is, man. Like, I don't go to church because I'm a good person.
Yeah, you go because you want to be a better person, and have a better relationship with. Yeah,
and because I know that I'm a bad person and that everything I'm trying isn't working.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, and it's tough. It's impossible to not look at people and judge them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you see those people at the church that think that they are perfect, and it's frustrating. But you got to remember that it is about you, your relationship with others, but your relationship with God is what's the most important.
Right. So. Right on, man. Anyways, it's been a great episode. It's been a pleasure to geek out about donuts and baking and being up late.
Yeah.
Working with you. Definitely, if you are a new listener and you have not heard any of the other episodes, you can go to the Fueled by Coffee podcast SoundCloud page. I have season 1 in a folder, season 2 so far, whatever we've put out is in a folder, and then there's also a specials folder with the little special episodes in between seasons. If you like what you heard, give me a follow. I appreciate your support. Like the podcast, share it with your friends. And Doug, any last words before we sign off?
Jesus loves you. That's all I've got.
There you go. All right. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure. Thank you for...
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.